feel like this is like super far away. But let's adjust. Everybody free. It's March of 2020 now, everybody. Hi. So the other day I found my flash drives. I didn't have a list of all my stories that I wanted to do, so I printed it up on my mom's computer. I wanted to do mini stories about one of the schools that I went to. I know the fam said they were leaving. I'm really nervous that they're still out there. Let's do the more negative ones. One is about the school I went to. Years later, when I moved into my apartment, I volunteered at this school as basically the principal's assistant for almost 10 years, I believe. And one of the things I did was volunteering with in the kindergarten classroom when the principal was substituting. It was hectic but fun because they were like excited to learn. There was one little girl in particular. She's just very energetic and very curious about my power chair. She would do this thing where she would just run at me out of nowhere and grab my joystick and just, but it was never backwards, never was it backwards, it was always forwards. She did this all the time. One time I had started getting sensitive to it, like I knew she was about to do it. So I would turn off the wheelchair right before she came running at me. And when she did it, when I had turned it off and she couldn't make it move, she got mad. And this was one of the wheelchairs that would deteriorate very quickly. It was the first one that didn't stand the test of time. She got mad that it wouldn't move and pushed on the arm of the chair. And it was already broken, this arm with the joystick. I had it attached with a string holding it upright. Like I had it wrapped around parts of the arm, and then I had it attached to an area where the backboard of the chair. And that worked. As long as she didn't push on it, it was fine. She pushed on it. So for the rest of the day, I'm like holding on to it way down here because I didn't want to mess with it again. The principal even asked me what was wrong with it. I was like, oh, she just pushed on it too hard and it was already kind of broken, so now it's down there, but I'll be fine. I can still drive. I had adapted myself to be able to drive because I think it had broken once while I was not at home. So I didn't have a string or anything to fix it at the time. So I drove like that home and then fixed it. So I knew how to do it. I figured I'll just get through the day like that and it'll be fine. So yeah, that was the story of that little girl. Although she does bleed into another story. There was a volunteer that joined the last year that I worked there. It was an older lady. And she did odds and ends around the school like me. And one thing we had to do together was lunch duty. And there was one day that the little girl came up to me and asked me, she asked me why I wore the braces. I think it was either that or why I was in the wheelchair. I can't remember exactly. And before I could answer, which usually at that school, if any of the kids asked me a question like that, I would just say that God made me a little differently because it was a Catholic school. I grew up Catholic, and that's why I went there. The church that I had gone to when I was growing up gave out tuition scholarships to the kids that were going to that school that attended that church. And so, yeah, that's what I would usually answer to the kids that would ask me questions like that. Why do you walk like that? Blah, 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 at that school. Especially if they were little, like she was. It seemed to please them. But before I could say a word, this other volunteer was stopped her. I was like, "Oh, no, 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 no. We don't ask things like that." I was so frustrated. I wanted to educate this little girl. Um, then she walked away. The little girl walked away, and the other volunteer was like, "I have friends with have English number one. I have friends that have disabilities, and they don't like it when people ask them questions." I'm like, that doesn't mean I didn't say this, but I was thinking, well, that doesn't mean all of us don't like questions. I like answering questions. And then I turned around to try and answer the little girl's question, but she was kindergarten, she was already on to the next thing, playing with her friends. They were about to go out to recess, so it was a missed opportunity. It just frustrated me to no end that happened. I had thought of something else in a little tidbit, because I was rewatching it, and I was getting to the part with the little girl. It made me think of another little girl. I was working the lunch shift. My job was to just like keep an eye on the kids, make sure they didn't get too unruly and whatnot, help them open their food items or whatever that they needed open, things like that. And I'm sitting up there in my wheelchair at the front of the room, and this one little girl comes up to me and she asks me why I needed my wheelchair, and I explained it just helps me get around better or something like that. She's just like, "Oh, okay." She might have been kindergarten, first grade. I can't really remember. Probably more first grade because she seemed like a little taller. So she's like, "Oh, okay," and she goes and sits back down. And then like a minute later, she gets back up and uh, what did she say? Something along the lines of I feel bad that you're in the wheelchair or something like that. Or goodness, now that I'm thinking about it, I can't remember the details exactly, but it was something along those lines. And it was really sweet. I was like, there's nothing to feel sorry about. I'm okay. I get around really easily in this wheelchair. It helps me get around. She's like, "Oh, okay." The little kids, the simplest explanations are okay for them. Hi, so I wanted to share another little tidbit about when I was sick for 2 weeks while I worked at this school. The kids were allowed to have as many ketchup packets as they wanted while I was working there. And then I got sick. I think it was a shunt malfunction, and I was gone for 2 weeks. I came back, and they had a ketchup war while I was gone. They were limited to 2 packets per person, and that was it. So I had to monitor the ketchup packets after that. The third story is about I went from 5th grade to 8th grade to this school. The 8th grade was the last grade at this school. I think it went from kindergarten, now it's preschool, to 8th grade, but it went from kindergarten to 8th grade when I was there. We had a walkathon every year at this park for like, it was 7th to 8th, or 6th to 8th grade. Had a walkathon, and they raised money for the school. And I remember one year I went, everything was going great, and I went to do my laps, and I was in I had a manual chair for years, up until like a couple of years before I moved out of my apartment. After a while, the tires would not stay inflated. It's ridiculous, and I really wasn't fitting into the chair anymore. It was in this park. I can't remember what park it was, but there was a hill at one point, and I was having a lot of fun because I could go faster than all my classmates in the chair. And I got a little too excited, went a little too fast down the hill. I had my seatbelt on and went forward and just like skidded the rest of the way down the hill. I scraped myself up pretty bad. Not, not too bad. Not enough that it hurt, but I got up, got back in my chair, and I pretended it was okay. I pretended it didn't hurt at all. Like, yeah, because everybody was panicking. The next thing I knew before I got up, everybody was around me. One of the secretaries was there. I don't know if both of them were. They like alternate days. The principal, all three or four teachers, the music teacher, all three classes of students, any parent that was chaperoning. They were all around me in no time flat. Just remember being so embarrassed. I think I stopped doing the laps after that. I just ate my lunch. And that was it. I may have done one more time after lunch, just slowly. You really see how much people care when something like that happens. Because you could probably be on like a bad day, think, oh, nobody likes me, nobody wants to be my friend, blah blah blah, and then you go head first in your wheelchair down a paved pathway, and suddenly everybody is around you, making sure you're okay. I don't remember much else after that. I can picture the buildings. There's like maintenance buildings behind us. I can picture the whole area. I can't remember where it was. Perhaps I could ask my classmates that I have on Facebook. Yeah, my last story is about them. My classmates in particular, who were really awesome. There's always a couple that are very nice to you sometimes, kids can be mean to one another. I remember the girls one time stood up to me with the bully that was kind of teasing. It wasn't hardcore bullying like you hear about these days. It was just a lot of light teasing and just kind of being obnoxious. I do remember the other girls in my class telling her off one day, which was really sweet, but that's not what my story is about. My last story is about in 5th grade, the first year I was there. I had a major surgery. I'm trying to remember. I want to say it was my Mitrophanoff surgery or the sacostomy. I can't remember though exactly. I do remember I was off for a time, so there was an extensive recovery period because the teacher, this sweet little nun, who wore sandals all year round. I remember that about her. She was so cute. This little thing. She wasn't any taller than I stopped growing in 5th grade. I have been 5 feet tall since the 5th grade. I am 34 years old. And I was as tall as she was. One time she came to my house and brought me my homework that I had missed, and she brought me a 3D puzzle of Cinderella's castle. Have fun editing that, future me. I might just leave it in just for the funny part there. Okay. Which I never did put all the way together. It was so complicated. And the pieces are like this foam with like a sticker on top of the what the thing of the puzzle is. That were so hard to get together. I think I gave up on it way early on. I don't think I got very far with it at all. I don't know. I don't remember if I threw it out or if I gave it away or put it in the yard sale, but I just remember it was so way beyond me. It was really sweet of her, though. That's still not what the story's about. The story is about when I was having this surgery, like the weeks leading up to the surgery. We were coming back from class, and this school has very long hallway. I might post a picture I have. It's a kind of creepy picture because it's an after hours picture. But it might give you some idea of what how long the hallway was. And our classroom, the 5th grade classroom, was almost at the end. It was like odd numbers were on the left side of the hallway, because that's what side we were on, and then even were on the right side. So 5th, and then the next classroom down would have been 7th grade, and then on the other side, 6th and 8th grade. At the end of the hall, and there were like double doors that led out to where we had recess. We were coming back from probably like gym or library or something like that, or maybe just the restroom. So like at the other end of the hallway, that's where the restrooms were. And then you go down a little further into the lunchroom area, and then you turn, and that was where the library was. I think it's a computer room now. I think the library now is where the 7th grade was. They've done some moving things around. You had the library and the principal's office and the office, and like a little meeting room on the opposite side of the hallway. And then you would go down another double set of doors, and there was some more restrooms and a drinking fountain, and then another set of double doors. There was a kitchen attached to the gym. If we were coming from there, but we were coming from the end of the hallway at least. And nobody would ever like run ahead of me. I am not a quick walker. I never have been. They would certainly walk ahead of me. If they got ahead of me, they would walk, but nobody would ever like rush to get ahead of me to get in the classroom. And I remember thinking something very odd, because everybody was literally running to get ahead of me to get into our classroom. And I remember thinking, this is very odd. What is going on? Why are they doing that? It's kind of mean. You all get in there at some point. Just I don't walk that slow. I did. Actually, I did. It was really sweet. I walked into the classroom, and they're all lined up against the back wall of the class. And there's this huge banner, I'll put it up. It's pink with this cute little like letter block background. And then like the ABC letter block stacked like classic, on either end of the banner. And the banner itself was several pieces of printer paper taped together. So it took some time. This was years ago. It took some time to put that together and print it up and tape it in order, and everything is lined up perfectly. All the letters are lined up. I still have the banner, which is why I'm telling the story. It came to mind because I was going through my storage unit. I was going through all the paper stuff that I had, and I found it. And it made me remember that day. And I posted it, and a couple of my schoolmates were like, yeah, I remember that. That was really cool. It said, get well soon. I think it said, we'll miss you too, but I can't remember. It's packed away in my closet right now, so I can't really get to it. But I'll put up a picture of it from my post on Facebook. I'll find it, save it to my phone, and put it on here. But that was just really sweet. So, yeah. Those are those 3 stories. 4 stories. I can count. That I have from that school that really stick out in my mind. I'm sure there's others, but those are the ones I wanted to mention. Yeah. But yeah, that was my memories from 5th to 8th grade. Alright, have a good day. Bye. I don't know if you can hear the birds. so loud. They're all squawking, and they usually do that like all day. Most days, they do that all day while I'm home, and everybody else is at work.